Hey, my name is Beb. Goddamn, where do I even start? I had the general impression that Nier Automata was an anime-ish game for weird gooners, but it both is and isn't that. The aesthetics of the androids are meant pretty clearly to be appealing, with the goth Lolita 2B and the twink schoolboy 9S seeking to quench that thirsty part of one's brain. On a much broader scale, let's talk about the look of the game outside of those two, because I find this facet very important for tone setting. Most of your time is going to be spent on the ruined Earth, long ravaged by a war between robotic life forms made by aliens and the androids made by humans. The Earth is bleak, soaking and burning in the blazing rays of the sun and washed out browns and greens and rusting reds and grays. The world is dying, soaking in the oil and viscera of a forever war, waged for creators unseen for centuries. Let's take a look at the three kinds of creatures you're going to see on this journey. First up are the androids, which are visually just humans. They look like people, they move like people, they talk like people. While there's a lot they don't know, they're pretty vocally dedicated to winning the world back for their moonbound masters as humanity has long retreated from the surface of their home. There's a clear divide between the resistance androids who live on the ground and the Yorha androids who live up in the orbital bunker. Side note, is the bunker an homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey, or am I going completely insane? I could be going nuts, but look at it. Okay, whatever. The Yorha androids are generally more advanced, better armed, infinitely more rare, and are also who you play as. Initially, it feels like the standard fish out of water power fantasy combo, but it really does end up mattering. I will note that even though you're person-shaped, the world never really feels like it has a place for you. Any place you might fit either has someone already there or is just unfit for life. Next up, we got the machine life forms, which I'll be calling either machines or robots to save time and also to not be a tedious nerd. They're the opposite of the androids in design. They're clunky and chunky, much more Wall-E and much less Westworld. You're told at first that they're an unfeeling and relentless force led by a globalized hive mind who will stop at nothing to exterminate the androids and then their human masters. I love their visual style. It stays consistent even when they start taking on wilder and wilder forms, even if they don't really look like they belong here either. They don't really fit a clean sci-fi aesthetic, being much more blocky and utilitarian, something closer to diesel punk than the slick designs of the Yorha androids. Lastly is the least defined group, but one I feel like I need to talk about, the animals. There's a few kinds of moose and boar wandering around, as well as a ton of fish I spent a totally normal amount of time catching. They fit the world's look a lot better than anyone who can talk, so it feeds this very odd sensation of being out of place and time. The animals feel much more at home than any of the creatures who can understand going to war. In the forest you see a moose resting and it feels as natural and fitting as the trees, which none of the androids or machines do really at any point, despite their efforts to do so. I also kind of want to briefly touch on the major areas of the game, mostly for completeness, because I don't have a ton to say, but I do want to make a few notes. The city ruins is the largest area and is often a very confusing place to navigate, simultaneously a hub, the crumbling reminder of what you're fighting for, and a labyrinth that is actively hostile to you. Skyscrapers with long broken glass, massive roots ripping through the earth, roads long abandoned, scarring the ground. A hollowed reminder of what this is all supposed to be for. This feeling of the void extends to the abandoned factory, the dark mirror into the hellish bowels of the mechanical earth, instead of the reaching spires of the skyscrapers. The desert is much more of the same, far more separated by the environment, even if the housing section is an excellent execution of a claustrophobic ruin. The amusement park might be my favorite area, visually. There's obvious physical degradation, everywhere has it, but the clown robots and generally ominously tainted cheer of the place really lift it above most of the world, just its texture alone. While it might be the smallest area, I do like how it manages to hide 3 different locations. It really lends to the rundown funtown vibe. Always a new secret to learn, always a new place to go. The forest and its castle is the only other zone in contention with the amusement park. While it does have a nice amount of ruins, it is the place you most interact with the natural world. And for me, it really feeds that feeling of uncanniness, like I don't belong here. I belong here even less than I did in the city ruins. The samurai and the night robots running around are some of my favorite variants of regular mobs, though. I wish I had more time to be there, even with my own inexplicable unease. The only other place I really want to talk about is the bunker itself, your kind of Yorha home base. It's very intentionally much more sleek and futuristic than anywhere else, so thoroughly separated from the rest of the world that despite the washed out colors of the earth, the bunker is so much more divorced from life, all whites and grays and cold commands. The world of Nier is so thoroughly focused on its own bleakness that you can feel it start to gnaw away at you, at itself, at all the characters. I'm going to talk about this more later, but even a scrap of lush color would have broken the illusion, and I'm more than happy with it being the way it is. It's a choice, it's intentional, and I feel like that should be respected. Okay, alright, let's get a little less high-minded. Let's take it back to the practical, and let's talk some gameplay. Nier is kind of a weird hybrid between a hack and slash and a bullet hell, with projectiles coming slow but in volume. You have also side-scrolling shooter levels, but honestly those missions are rare enough that I don't want to spend a ton of time on them. They're fun, but I never really felt like I was at risk unless I was literally falling asleep. They're fine. The main gameplay loop feels so slick and well made. 2B and have two different weapons they can switch between, flowing fluidly between light and heavy swings, launchers, aerial slams. Each of the 40 weapons have their own properties and damage ranges, as well as the 4 different types of weapons having their own attacks. It did feel pretty fun to try a bunch of them out as I figured out what I actually liked. 9S works a little different. He gets his own sidebar later. You also have one of 3 drones. You start with the machine gun pod, and then gain the laser and missile pods later. The hierarchy is very clear, in my opinion. Missile pod is the worst. It has long wind-up time and often misses. Gatling is mid because while it does pretty well, the tracking is a little questionable. Laser is the king. Comparable damage to Gatling with fantastic tracking and piercing. It's super common to kill enemies by complete accident and pop any hittable enemy bullets, which gives it crazy utility. If I wasn't using laser, it was usually because fast traveling makes you swap back to Gatling for some fucking reason. Whatever. There's plenty of boss fights sprinkled in, with the first boss that you fight being a fucking devastator size and scale. You only have a few fights at your own size, and all of them feel more special for that. I'm going to show a few clips sprinkled in here, especially Simone. One of the best fights for spectacle and for scale and for mechanics. Some of that might be coming from the fact that the first time I fought her, I was not very well equipped. Definitely not enough to steamroll her, which would not remain the case and really deplete her challenge. There's some weird choices with the button placement as well, making the pod fire button right bumper and making dodge right trigger, so dodging while shooting is super awkward, although I did start doing it because some enemies are just better chipped out at range than wrangled in melee, which could get you, swarmed. Despite how fucking amazing combat feels, most of it, 9S does some things differently. He doesn't really have a heavy attack. He can instead hack into enemies and do a short mini game, just a little top-down shootery thing. If you fail, you take some damage. If you succeed, you either blow them up outright or deal massive damage. Problem is that this is your best way to hit people. So you're doing the hacking minigame a fucking million times, and no minigame is good a million times in a row. Not a single one. I grew to hate it over the course of the game. You hack for chests, you hack for enemies, you hack for plot. By the end, I hacked so much shit, I started to learn some of the patterns for the specific rounds for the minigame instinctually. It's such a hard blemish, not such a fluid game. It was constantly taking me out of the fun combat into a side objective that I did not enjoy. I'm not bitching about this anymore. It's mostly great. completion is kind of a bastard. Some of the achievements you'll get by playing the game normally, no shockers there. The problem's really coming with some of the later ones. After finishing the game 3 times, you unlock chapter select, which makes things a lot easier, but it's still a pain in my ass. I did take the time to catch all the fish. Fish? I'm sorry, did I say fish? My brain is cooked. Crack this motherfucker into a cast iron pan. I did take the time to catch all the necessary fish. I didn't have to do that. I did not know that. It did, however, set me up with so much cash, I did not really have to worry about it until the end of the game. Now, it does ask you to be a creep for 2 different achievements, both by looking up 2B's skirt and blowing off Ninus's pants, which I personally did not really care for. The farming is the worst of it, especially grinding out elaborate gadgets, where it's literally faster to borderline complete the game's bestiary than to grind them out by running to an item spawn over and over again. Because doing the bestiary guarantees a few, while running to the item spawn is like trying to hit a 1% slot machine multiple times, and I am a bad fucking gambler. You have to maximize all your weapons and all your drone pods, which adds no new difficulty, but makes life so much more annoying. The only weapon that's really hard to get is Emil's heads, which you have to beat him for, but we're going to talk about Emil a little later. There's not much here that's worth noting. I don't really know what to say. You know what grinding is. There's also a big ass gold bunny who you can beat the shit out of to hit max level. I did it in like 15 minutes. Oh, the other big thing to get done is the scattered endings for the game, of which there are 26 total. You mostly just go off the rails and either abandon the objectives or randomly slaughter friendly NPCs. They're mostly treated as gags, like the time you eat a fish so hard that you die, but man, some of them feel real bad. At one point you have to slaughter an entire village of peaceful robots, and they beg you not to, but don't fight back. It's so fucked. Even without the story contextualizing this as being even worse than you think it might be, it made me genuinely sad. Only one ending was actually missable, but it wasn't that hard to get since I was paying attention. I didn't know about it. I don't want to harp on it like it was a nightmare. It was much more a test of endurance than a true skill challenge, especially when I started out leveling most enemies and deleted them in a few hits. You just kind of slowly ascend to a wrecking ball god, and it becomes a question of inevitability. I don't usually like doing spoilers. I play games for the story. It's what I like. I want others to feel the vibe and the rush that I get when I play. But this, I have to. I cannot stop fucking thinking about this game. Now, I've been avoiding video essays on this game, so if I retread someone else's idea, like, I'm sorry, but I didn't see it, so whatever. Let's start with a quick rundown. The endings I talked about in the completion section were mostly gags, but there's 5 here that actually need to be addressed. You have routes A and B, which are your first 2 you're going to do no matter what, and they cleanly correspond to 2B and 9S's doings for their part of the story. So we're starting there. I covered some of this in the settings section, but for completeness, I'm going to retread a few things here. You start the game as 2B, an elite Yorha android dressed like somebody's weird maid, working as part of a group to clear the planet for the return of humanity who's hiding on the moon from the rabid machine hordes who slaughter at the behest of their alien masters. Damn near everything I just said was either inaccurate or a complete lie. Every fact Nier gives you has a tinge of mistrust, a hint of venom. You start as 2B, the loyal Yorha dog who follows orders despite the impossibility of the task before her. In your first mission, your entire squad is slaughtered in an attack on the abandoned factory, and 2B is only saved by the late intercession of 9S, and both end up winning the day in a literal suicide attack. You are disposable. As long as someone can back up your memories to get you back in the fight, your death is without meaning. When you get to the resistance camp down on the ground, 2B immediately gets confused for someone else by the camp's leader, Anemone, and although that doesn't go anywhere for now, it reinforces that theme of disposability. This person met and knew someone that was functionally the same as you, but wasn't you. The fact that your save and fast travel points are literally fucking vending machines also feels very pointed. Like, the machines, despite your sentience, you are also just a product to be consumed by Yorha, by the Resistance, even by the robots who find uses for the corpses of androids. By the time 2B gets rattled by the machine speaking phrases that imply that they too are actually sentient, you get the feeling that you are missing something. The machine hordes beg for mercy. They ask for their families. They ask to be left alone. You stumble into what is effectively an impotent orgy of machines, moving as humans would, but to no effect, until they smash together and birth the humanoid but Ken doll smooth Adam in a confused replication of birth. Killing him summons a second humanoid machine that takes the corpse away and only hands you more questions without answers. 2B starts and remains pretty cold with 9S, despite being repeatedly rattled by the idea that she is being lied to about the robots. She refuses to engage with him emotionally.
There's no point trying to work out unsolvable problems.
I suppose.
My favorite fight in the game is part of 2B's journey, showing an opera singer robot named Simone using androids on the brink of death as both weapon and accessory, and 2B comes away thinking that there's more than she knows.
What is it?
That machine had some pretty weird things to say, huh? It's almost like it had actual emotion.
The machines don't have feelings. You said that yourself.
Yeah, I guess.
This is only reinforced by the introduction of Pascal and the peaceful village of machines who live off-network. They're not controlled like the others are. Though both androids doubt this is really possible, there isn't a lot of time to think about that before a seismic event brings a new revelation. The alien invaders, locations unknown to both the humans and the androids, were hidden deep underground. Much more pressingly, they're dead. And they've been dead for a very long time, killed by their own creations. The humanoid robots from earlier, now known to you as Adam and Eve, have been the ones running the war from the machine side. Adam has become obsessed with understanding humanity, even trying to get you to change sides in such an honestly unhinged way that it made me laugh.
It's simple. We need you to locate the humans on the moon and bring them to us. We will then dissect and analyze them in order to drag their secrets forth into the light. Surely you see the attraction in this.
Like, dude, what the fuck are you even going for here? After this, you go after the expansionist and aggressive forces of the Forest King in a crumbling castle, only to find a baby-sized robot in a crib that they call their king. Before the duo can get truly confused by what the fuck is happening, A2 enters the fray by killing the Forest King. You're ordered to capture her, but that quickly becomes a kill order. It doesn't matter much, both fail. A2 tells you that she did not betray command, she was betrayed by command. And then she jumps out of a goddamn window? Man, she's so fucking cool. At this point, both 2B and I were in a tailspin because we were missing massive pieces of information and there wasn't a clear way to get any of them. Pascal doesn't have much useful info on A2, and Anemone isn't really forthcoming either despite potentially knowing her. Scrabbling around for more yields little, and there isn't much really to hold on to. Instead of getting any answers, you're sent on another borderline suicide mission against a gigantic mech where all the cavalry that gets sent in for you gets annihilated. Even 2B only survives by the skin of her teeth, losing track of 9S in the process. You find him deep underground, in this, if we're being honest, Kingdom Hearts-ass simulacrum of a human city, where he's being held captive by Adam, driven crazy by his desire to fully understand humanity.
The core of humanity is conflict. They fight, steal, kill. This is humanity in its purest form.
Adam is so separated from reality at this point, he's only vaguely satisfied when you kill him, but it's unclear if he really got his answers about the nature of humanity and its cruelty that he really wanted. With not much to show for this whole affair other than some stories, Pascal asks you to escort him to the abandoned factory as a new faction of robots is reaching out to break bread, to make peace. This leads to one of the more harrowing stages of the game, where these fun, goofy little round bots with pope hats and robes decide that to ascend to godhood they need to slaughter each other and you. It's a desperate scramble out of there as you watch these robots you've slowly realized have thought commit acts of mass suicide and beating doubters to death. This fucked me up, honestly. It's such a harsh change from the high action to this scene in a dark basement where you can't do anything to stop what's happening, and you were a fool to come here at all. But things aren't better anywhere else. Massive machine swarms have started mobilizing, attacking Pascal and the Resistance camp, requiring you to run to defend both. After doing so, you learn that Eve also lost his mind after the death of his brother and is now trying to kill androids generally and you specifically. The final fight with him ends in his death, and even though 9S got attacked and hacked by a logic virus, he survives by putting himself in a machine body, and they all lived happily ever after.
I'm glad you're okay.
Come on, man. I know you didn't think I was done. You've seen a video with a shitty fake out before. Route B is the same story as Route A, but it's from 9S's perspective. 2B is a kind of cold person who gets shaken by the idea that her faceless enemy might actually have some more to them. But 9S oscillates wildly between staunchly jealous in the mission and thinking the machines are capable of genuine thought. When you're playing as 2B, 9S comes across as a bit cloying but well-meaning, but when you're in his head, it comes across as so much grimier. He's constantly trying to make deeper, almost flirtatious connections with the women around him, only to constantly get turned down. It's even starker with the contrast of how 2B and her operator interact in a very familiar way, whereas 9S's operator has barely concealed, contempt for him.
Operator 210 to 9S. This is your regularly scheduled contact. I have something important to discuss with you today.
What is it?
Our maintenance team filed a complaint about how you treat your flight unit. They requested that you cease making unauthorized modifications.
Well, I kinda had to. There's so much excess data sent to me from the satellite, it's delaying aim correction.
If you have a rebuttal, you need to discuss it with maintenance. Fight it out if you must. Operator 210 out.
Jeez. My operator's more prone to violence than I thought.
He also gets so much more insight into the stories of the bosses when he hacks them, which makes his zeal for the Forever War seem so much more like a front, trying to convince himself that the cause is just even as the reality strips away the facts he's been fed. Honestly, he had this kind of incel energy that's hard to pin down. His persistence with women, his constantly throwing himself into danger to be the hero even when he's not built for that, his wild frustration with setbacks. There's a moment right before 2B fights Adam where Adam fucks with 9S, and he says this. I sat on the screen for a bit. There's a few four-letter words I could put there, each of them darker than the last. All of them fit the actions of 9S because we're never really clear what he truly wants. Does he want love and intimacy, or power over those he desires? It's hard to tell if it's immaturity or just signs of a deeper problem with him. It made me equal parts afraid of what he might do and empathetic of what he might want. That lack of clarity makes what he learns equal parts fascinating and tragic. Occasionally, through the course of the game, you've been getting messages from the Council of Humanity to gin up more support for the war against the machines.
The Council of Humanity has a message for all of our brave androids fighting on the surface. Currently, our struggle against the machine life forms is at a stalemate. This battle has raged for far too long. I am sure all of you find the effort grueling. But now is not the time to give up. Now, more than ever, we must forge on. Remember that several 100,000 humans on the moon want nothing more than a return to Earth. Glory to mankind.
But when 9S hacks into the bunker to put himself back together after getting owned by a massive war machine, he gets a crucial piece of intel on the Council. They did not create Yorha. Yorha created them. The Council is a farce, something that the Yorha commander openly admits to and says you can do whatever you want with that information. 9S determines he must tell 2B and spends the rest of the game trying to do so, leading to the same confrontation and a heavily similar ending. So the two show kind of the opposite sides of the coin. In a world as bleak and hopeless as Nier's, you can either hold the line and be a good soldier, or dig too deep and learn shit that you shouldn't. They both live short, brutal lives, so what's the harm in staying ignorant, even if it means you're gonna struggle for nothing real at the end? It would be sad, but a nice bow on things. It is a shame then that I am still lying to you. Route C is where shit goes entirely off the fucking rails. It picks right up after the other two endings, with 2B and 9S getting ready for an all-out fight against the now leaderless robots. A final strike from Yorha to end the war. In what will not shock you even a little bit, this does not go very well at all. Logic viruses start fucking with the Yorha androids and disabling them. The duo falls back to the bunker, where shit goes from bad to worse. The commander accuses you of being corrupted, but there's not really a lot of time to figure that out before the bunker is assaulted by the new, meaner Logic virus and instantly starts fucking everything to hell. The bunker falls to the hacking as 2B and 9S barely make it out, escaping back to the surface in flight suits as the entire place, the last bastion of humanity's great hope, completely fucking explodes in the atmosphere. 2B, realizing that she has been hacked and her systems are failing, sends 9S to safety as she tries to find a place to die that won't fuck over the resistance fighters and remaining Yorha defenders. She's saved at the last minute by the sudden arrival of A2, but knows that she still won't make it. Putting her memories into her sword, she's granted a swift death, but all 9S sees is A2 killing the only person he still has a deep attachment to. Before the two can cross blades, massive structures rip up, erupting from beneath the earth and blast the two apart. And that sets up our twin plots for this route. A2 and 9S trying to respond to the destruction of the bunker and the resulting losses each suffers. Let's start with 9S, since we already know his Weasley ass pretty well. He wakes up at the resistance camp, having gotten almost obliterated by the structures when they, came up from the earth. When you look into them more, you learn that you need to find some keys. It does have this weird kind of touristy voice that tells you to do this, which lends to the surreality of all of this shit.
But locks on each sub-unit must be deactivated before accessing the main tower. Have a great day.
The destruction of the bunker and the death of 2B sort of break 9S down, and all he really wants is to crack the tower open and kill everything inside. He goes on a rampage, crashing through the support structures that contain the keys to the big-ass tower, the cores of which ask for mercy, and he's even forced to fight a corrupted version of his own operator. Although, when he hesitates, when he cracks under pressure, A2 ends up bailing him out. He tries to kill her for this, but the Earth betrays him again, and he just heads to the tower with all the keys. Another pair of androids who are sort of important, but I'm not going to talk about much, sacrifice themselves to let him get inside, and he ascends. Fighting through more androids and copies of 2B, he ends up grafting one of her hands onto his own as he keeps climbing. Then, just as he is at the end of his last thread of fraying sanity, he learns yet another awful truth. Humanity had programmed the backdoor into the bunker, and the robots used it to destroy it. Once it became clear years ago that humanity could not survive and could not be meaningfully stored or restored, they put an expiration date on Yorha the way one might place one on a milk carton. The androids had always been disposable. Not even their creators thought to allow them the freedom to break the cycle of extinction. If humans could not live, their creations would not survive them. This totally breaks 9S. Nothing he has ever known has had meaning, and the only person he cared for is dead. All there is for him now is to kill A2.
9S. We...
Shut up! You killed 2B. That's all we need to kill each other.
And what of A2? She's a very new character on this route, physically resembling and playing very similar to 2B, but is much more irritable, surly, and combative. 2B's old pod follows her around on its last directive, and she says all she wants to do is to kill robots. There's a big brawl out in the desert that ends when her being forced back to the resistance camp who sent her to Pascal's pacifists. Shortly after helping the village out, tragedy strikes. A variant of the Logic virus hits them, turning them into cannibals. who tear the pacifist to pieces with little resistance. When you evacuate the children and Pascal himself from the village, shit gets worse. As in the fight to keep the kids safe, Pascal breaks his core principles and attacks, violating the exact thing that made him and his village safe before, his pacifism. But it's all for naught. The children chose to commit suicide instead of being killed by the maddened robots, or risking our failure. This breaks Pascal, who asks you to kill him or wipe his memories. You take a minute to help 9S with his operator, which he isn't really grateful for, the fucking little bastard. After getting separated, you head into the tower after him, fighting through a different path before the two of you link up to fight a boss. While A2 doesn't really get a revelation on the way, you, the player, still get one. Because as it's just the two of them, A2 has one final harsh truth for 9S. 2B was not a B model at all. She was an E executioner model, and it was her job to kill 9S over and over every time he figured out the Council of Humanity wasn't real. He didn't have to tell her about it. 2B already knew. We will talk about that in a second, I promise. At this point, you're offered a choice between A2 and 9S. If you choose A2, you beat 9S and attempt to repair him, although your efforts have a low chance to restore his sanity, and his fate is unclear. Choosing 9S just continues his path of rage, killing A2 but getting impaled on 2B's sword in the process. Adam and Eve offer him a way off the planet somehow. It doesn't give you a ton of information on it, and honestly, I'm not even sure if it's meant to be real. With all these routes down, let's talk about the themes a bit. The three playable characters offer a kind of triad of the reaction to an awful truth. 2B plays the part of the loyal soldier, protecting others and making sure they don't learn things that would be hard for them to deal with. 9S is broken by the truth, utterly, only losing more and more of himself as he learns new information to the point he's unable to even process his final revelation. A2 rebels against the system that keeps the truth hidden, but without wider support is unable to affect real change. Each is uniquely unable to deal with the world as it is, and the full truth does give them more context. 2B was able to deal with the guilt of killing 9S because it was infrequent, but the scale of genocidal violence she wages against the robots starts to shake her faith in the cause. 9S's cloying immaturity makes a lot more sense when scanner models are seen as more disposable and generally lesser in the hierarchy of Yorha. He was not allowed much community, and we watch him desperately try to find it and fail. The truth he went to share with 2B would have gotten him killed. The world of Nier generally shows an entire planet populated by people that continuously fall to obsession and madness in the pursuit of their goals. Adam and Eve have linked but opposing desires. Adam wants to fully understand humanity, and it drives him insane and eventually to his death at the hands of 2B. Eve just wants to hang out with his brother and enjoy their time in the world, and Adam's death severs what ties him to things and forces 2B and 9S to kill him. In a fun inversion, Adam is the one who eats first of the forbidden fruit of knowledge of humans and gets both of them cast out of the world. Pascal is trying to make a pacifist community that's so very hard to do in a world this ravaged by violence, and in his pursuit to make his village a prosperous place, poisons them with the philosophies of the old world.
This Nietzsche was quite the profound thinker. Or perhaps he skipped right past profound and went straight to crazy instead.
Even goofier characters like Emil, Father Servo, and Masamune end up chasing death as part of their respective obsessions. Characters who abandon their principles or the facts of their lives seem much more richly rewarded, like the android who keeps wiping the mind of her partner in order to mold him into what she needs. The clown robot who turns his back on the parade of peace that was his idea. The red-hooded assassin android that wiped her own memory to live with what she had done. Then there's the old world philosophies, infecting so many parts of the world even with humanity long gone. Bosses are called shit like Marx, Engels, Bokushi, and Simone. The robots are completely dominated by the tinges of the old world. At one point it's even stated robots can't learn from their mistakes, only repeat them over and over without changing course. It feels very familiar for some reason. Even Adam's descent into madness is on a philosophical quest to understand the nature of human cruelty. It seems like no one can escape their own destruction. It fits. It really does. The game is bleak and dour the whole time, with only occasional flashes of positivity hung over by the inevitability of it all crashing down. A2 butchers 9S. 9S gets both of them killed. Does it matter? Turns out the blown out lights and the deep shadows of the world were exactly what they said on the tin. This place is beyond growth in a way that matters to us, the players. The whole thing was rigged to blow by other decisions long before we had a chance to make any real change. Depressing, isn't it? But I'm still lying to you. The final ending, E, can only be unlocked after having done either C or D and doing the final fight again. During the end credits, the pods, who have been following us the whole game, ask us, the player, if we want to try to make something better. And looking out over the rusted wasteland of eternal war, it's hard to say anything but yes. This leads into what is honestly the hardest goddamn section of the game. A very long, very brutal hacking minigame where you fight the fucking end credits. Your goal is to unmake the people who've made the endings you've seen, full of false hope and dead ends, and to weave a new ending out of the bones. And then I died. And the strangest thing happened. I got a fun little inspirational quote from what looks like another player. And it made me smile a little. And another death brings me a new quote. And another, and another, and another, until I get a rescue offer. Not from the game or the pods, but from another player. So I took it. And a swarm of other little ships surround Bind, vastly increasing both our firepower and survivability. When I get hit, someone takes a shot for me, and then another person joins. I'm being buoyed and protected by other players. After so long in the absolute desert of grinding and hopelessness and frustration, it made me a little emotional. I won't lie. It's a marriage of gameplay and challenge in theme. Some people will be strong enough to do it themselves, but you should not be held back if you need a hand. Then, after having gotten some feelings out of me, Nier dares to transgress again, punching through the layers separating me from the world of the game and asking if I would give up my file to help someone else. If I would sacrifice my time and my effort and my energy in order to give someone the same hand that I had, even if they might be someone that I hate or I would not help on my own. There's only one real answer. I just kind of sit there stunned, and all of my hard-won inventory dissolves like tears in the rain. I never had a game challenge me, the player, in such a direct, obvious way. I could have looked it up beforehand, I could have backed up my save, but a sacrifice at no cost is no sacrifice at all. Nier asked me to give up what I had done in order to be there for someone else. And after everything, all I could think was, this is really the only way it could end. Deletion of the old, separation from the chains of our forefathers, and the forging of a new way is the only way to survive. There's no trick to this, but you've got us with you. So say goodbye. God, how the fuck do I follow that? This was not just a fun game for me. This might be one of the best games I've ever played. It took a while to write this video because I wanted to do it justice, not just give a fire and forget experience. Have I done that? I literally cannot be the judge. Epitaphs are written by the living. Okay, let's spin the goddamn wheel before I wax poetic anymore. I talked directly to Jason about it when I finished it. It's going to be very hard for any game to top Nier. Like, it was excellent.
You think so?
I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not doing a bit right now. Like, it genuinely is crazy how good that fucking game is, and I never would have played it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that Jason had that good rec. When I told Leica that you were playing it, she was really excited because she watched, I can't remember how many of the Niers that she watched. She watched a lot of them, like the playthroughs and stuff like that, and she loved the story and the art. So like she said whenever you finished it, like she would love to talk to you about it for your thoughts.
All right, let her know that I have finished it, and I'll have thoughts for the rest of my goddamn life. All right, you ready?
Okay, I will. All right. Yes, let me go back to speaker. Yes, I am ready.
All right, here we go.
Let's go. Wheel, wheel, wheel. God, it looks so cute. I forget how cute it is. All right, what do you have? You have
Pockets.
pockets. All right, who has pockets?
17.
17. 20. Mega Man. Oh, this must be Brenna.
Okay, it turns out Brenna can give me a game that's not 90 hours.
Okay, so she did say that there were a couple Mega Mans.
How many of these games are Brenna?
Brenna had a lot.
It's very unfortunate. I realize I've set the precedent now that when I do these, if I say Brenna, I have to flash Brenna's thing on screen in timing with me saying Brenna. Uh, so
Right.
I'm assuming whenever I get around to editing this video that she's shown up like 30 times in this section.
Right. Hang on, let me see. It's Brenna and then I think
Brenna is a specter haunting my bones.
Marvin also did a little bit more. Some people just had multiple ideas. And what I liked about the people who submitted multiples was that a lot of times they're very like more than two, they were very different. All right, so Brenna did one, two.
Yeah.
Brenna did five. 17 is the third one in Mega Man Legends. So there is a Mega Man Legends 1. Do you want that? Do you want to? There's 1, 2, and 3. The Misadventures of Tron Boone is Mega Man's Legend 3.
Tron Bon.
Sorry. Tron Bot.
I
It's up to you if you want to do them in order or not. I don't know if it matters. It would be a Brenna question.
I guess I'll find out if it matters, and I'm just gonna hard cut. Okay, I promise there will not be a thesis like this on Mega Man. Thank you, Brenna, for not putting another 30 to 60 hour bastard in the chamber. I'll see you when I see you. Later.